All right, good afternoon, everyone. How are you all feeling? Sleepy after lunch? I think we're just settling in, so while everyone settles in, let me just quickly introduce myself and talk a little bit about logistics. So my name is Irene Liu, and I'm the News Lab lead for APAC at Google News Lab. Google News Lab, I'll talk more about that when we start the presentation. But we're very, very happy to host you all here. And this is a 3-hour hands-on session. So it is, and we're going to go through a lot of material. So we will take a break at around an hour and a half, just because it is quite intense. And also, we are, just so we're all clear, this is an English-only session. And we do not have translation today. So if you are interested in a Bahasa Indonesia version of this workshop, we will be doing it on Friday at the Sheraton Hotel. So if you are interested, please find me at the break and I can give you information about that training. Okay, shall we get started? Great, so I'm just going to start a little bit by introducing Google News Lab, and we won't take very long because I don't want to take away from the hands-on training. So when we talk about Google News Lab, we always like to start with Google's mission, which is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. This isn't actually that different from what you all do. That mission might sound quite familiar because journalists have been doing the exact same thing for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? As long as people have been telling stories and informing each other, this is just something that's part of human nature, long before Google ever started. This is a really interesting time for news. One of the things that this whole conference is talking about is sort of where journalism fits within the larger ecosystem. The reason why you all are here today is trying to understand the role that journalists play in fighting misinformation. This is more crucial than ever. When anyone, or a lot of people, have one of these, and they can take photos, they can shoot video, they can write stories, and publish online, then anyone can commit a journalistic act. The question then is, how do we differentiate ourselves as journalists? How do we make sure that the information that we provide is elevated so that people are getting high quality, verifiable, trustworthy information? In addition, the bridges between technology and media are growing stronger. It's not only about newspaper or TV or radio, it's also our own websites and then also all of these other platforms. Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Line, Kakao. There are so many different platforms for people to consume news. And now, as journalists, back in the day, we could just focus on the story, but we now also have to focus on where that information is being presented. In order to try to grapple with these issues, there are a lot of innovation centers that are popping up around the world, from academia, from legacy mainstream news organizations, as well as newer startups. So here at Google, we believe that creating a more informed world takes journalists and technologists working together. We cannot separate the incredible work that you all do as journalists from the technology now. And that's where we think Google News Lab fits in. So Google News Lab has been around for about 2 years. It started in Europe and then moved to the United States, and has now, just this year, expanded into the Asia-Pacific area, as well as Latin America. Our mission is to work with you all, so to work on the editorial, journalists, reporters, editors, as well as people who are thinking about how to innovate in media, to try to build the future of media with Google. And so we do this in a number of different ways. We do this through training and development. So convening workshops like this one, going to newsrooms. I've actually met a number of you at your own newsrooms before. That's sort of a very key part of what we do, is really working to help people learn about Google tools and how they can be used for investigative reporting, for data journalism, for day-to-day beat reporting, as well as fact-checking and verification. We also do product and research. We also build coalitions and work to convene and develop partnerships. So, for training, we've been really busy since we started. We've trained 30,000 journalists in Europe. Globally, we've trained over 100,000, and our goal this year is to get Google tools into the hands of 500,000 journalists around the world this year. So as I mentioned, we do a number of different kinds of trainings. We do in-newsroom trainings, so I will, or one of my colleagues will actually go to your newsroom and focus on a particular topic that you're interested in. We also attend large events such as this UNESCO event. And then we also create local training boot camps to focus on specific tools to go really in depth. So when we talk about collaborative tools, Google tools, we're talking about a lot of different things. So collaborative tools like Google Sheets, Google Docs, advanced search, which you'll learn a lot about today, Public Data Explorer, which visualizes large data sets, Google Maps and Earth, again, we'll talk a lot about that today, Google Trends, which is the big data set of how people search around the world in Google, as well as immersive storytelling tools like 360-degree photos, video, virtual reality, and augmented reality. So we convene in a lot of different ways. We do big events, and we also do training on our website. So the Google News Lab website, and all of you have the long flyer that actually has our website. There is a training center specifically with lessons that are focused on tools for journalists. So the lessons, one thing I like to talk about is, they're kind of the way civilians, normal people, use Google tools, and then there are ways that journalists use Google tools. We are always looking for highly specific, detailed, expert information. And so the way that you get to that information using these tools is very different than regular people. So our lessons are specifically focused on journalism use cases. We also have case studies that we highlight so that, when I teach journalism, I always talk about how the easiest way to learn is to take good examples and try to work backwards and figure out how the journalists did their work. And so that's why we really focus on highlighting case studies. In addition, we have the website translated into a number of languages. If you go there right now, you'll see that there are not nearly enough Asian languages on the website, but we are actively working right now to translate in a number of Asian languages. So check back in a little while, and hopefully you'll see your language as well. We also want to help develop journalists, so we sponsor News Lab fellowships around the world. And we also serve as ambassadors for journalists to the Google product teams. So when you all are using all of these tools, when we go to newsrooms, if you send me an email with feedback, then my job is actually to tell and provide that feedback to the teams internal to Google to make sure that they understand the use cases and are aware of any of the issues or troubles or challenges that you're facing. As I mentioned, we're really big on convening. We know that we can't do this alone. It's really about working with you all. And so we've developed coalitions such as the Google News Lab University Network, Journalism 360, which is focused on 360 video, immersive storytelling, VR, AR, and then, of course, First Draft, who are our wonderful guests for today who are going to be doing the training. Just quickly, Google has been very involved and very much active in trying to work in this misinformation space. So if you want to go next. We have been partnering actively with First Draft in APAC. So convening events. The photos here you're seeing are from Hong Kong. We're also actively working to translate First Draft materials into local Asian languages. So if you feel that your home country is in need of this material, please, please find me and tell me so that I can prioritize it and we can make sure that these materials are available to you and your colleagues as well. And lastly, when we talk about collaboration, we just feel, again, that we are just a convener working with partners like First Draft and you all to develop projects to fight this misinformation ecosystem together. And you can keep going through. Yep. Next. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with, and I'm just going to spend just a minute talking about this, is the fact check tag. How many of you have heard of the fact check tag on Google Search and Google News? Okay, one person. All right, so if you go next. So one of the things that we are trying to do, as we mentioned, is to elevate high quality information. And of course, we rely on journalists and journalism to help to provide that high quality information. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is help to elevate that fact checking information up in search, in Google Search, as well as Google News. So when we talk about fact check, we're specifically focused on information that is checking the validity of a public statement. So for example, if a politician makes a statement, you know, about how many people have died of malaria in a certain country, when a news organization is fact checking that statement, we want to elevate that particular fact check up into search and news. So the way you can see it looks here is, this is an example, Theresa May, who is the Prime Minister of England, she made a comment about doing passport checks on pregnant women in hospitals in the UK. And so what you can see is if someone searched that specific issue on Google News, you could see in the highlight in red is the fact check, which really elevates the story and the fact check higher up. Next. And you can see, oh, sorry, that was, oops, let's go to the next one. Yeah, and the other thing that you can do is you can see how fact check operates in search. So in search, the way it works is if you are typing in something that has been fact checked by an organization that has done the markup required to have it show up in Google, what you do is if you type in that term, then you can see that there are actually the fact check here by Snopes, which tells you not only what the claim is, but also in that box right within search whether or not that has been considered true or false or whatever way it's been fact checked. If you go next. This is how it looks in mobile. And if you next. So how do you get this information so that Google will actually know to show the fact check tag in search and news? There are two different ways to do it. One is by implementing the schema.org claim review markup. So you can see that there's a lot of code right here. This requires your organization to essentially adopt a process to actually start tagging information and different claims in the code of your story so that when Google is actually you know, providing search results, it actually can flag your fact check. Option 2 is something called the Share the Facts widget. This is a way that is very, very easy to kind of implement. What it does is it allows you to show and highlight fact-checked information in your own stories. And so when you actually use this widget, the claim review schema is automatically embedded into your story so that it will show up in Google News and Google Search. And it was developed in partnership, not within Google, but it was developed in partnership with the Duke Reporters Lab. And there are already a few news organizations that are adopting it. And it takes a while to get this because we are actively partnering with an organization and they have a limited amount of bandwidth. So if this is something that your news organizations are interested in implementing, we suggest that you look at the first option, which is the claim review markup. And if you are interested in the widget, please let me know and we can connect you to the right people. This is just to say that there's so much work to be done and we would love to work with you in partnership. And so if you can, just keep in touch with me. If you are interested in the fact check tag, the widget, or just in general newsroom trainings for your own newsrooms, please feel free to email me here, and I would love to come visit you in your in your newsrooms directly. All right, thanks so much. Now, and now I'd actually love to hand it over to Flip Pryor and Steffi Burnett from, who are going to be conducting today's hands-on training, and I'll let them introduce themselves as well.
Hello everyone, thank you Irene, that was a great introduction. I'm Flip Pryor, I work at the ABC in Australia, so it's great to be here today. Before I was at the ABC, I was at Twitter Australia as their news partnerships manager, and back in the dark ages of 2012 I was a print journalist, which was before online started to take over our industry. This is Steffi. Is it working? Nope.
Hello, I'm Steffi. I'm the acting Australia editor for Storyful News at the Australia Bureau in Sydney, and we often work closely with ABC, like Flip. Previously, I was with Time magazine, and before that, I worked for an anti-corruption think tank called Transparency International in Berlin. So, just wanted to get a bit more, since we're going to be a lot more active here today, you're going to be more hands-on, it's not just us talking the whole time. If I can get an understanding as to who uses social media to find news, if you can raise your hand. Great, okay. Who has that gut instinct when they see a fake news story? Okay, and who's here to develop that instinct and to learn more about it? Brilliant. Okay, so the goal of today is to essentially give you all the tools you need to articulate why something is or is not fake. So we're going to go through a lot of tools. Don't be alarmed. We'll give you access to all of these tools if we're moving a bit quickly. There'll be a sheet where you can download them and you can go back through it. And you can also contact myself or Irene afterwards to get more access to it. We're on a tight schedule, so if you do have questions, feel free to definitely raise your hand. But we're gonna try and keep this as quick and efficient as possible, because I know some people want to run off to another session after ours ends. Okay, so here's Flip.
Okay, thanks, Steffi. See this Google short link here? If you can just go into that document. That's going to be your cheat sheet for today. It's going to give you a list of all the different tools that we're going to talk about. It's your take-home gift from us. It's also going to be what we're going to use to take you through some of the hands-on activities in this session. So if you could just get that open, that will give you a good head start. We're going to get you to bookmark a whole lot of tools. We do suggest opening up, if you have a laptop, open up Chrome on your browser, because we're going to give you a whole bunch of tools that are going to make your life a lot easier. We're hiding over here because of the technology. We're not scared of you. We just have to sit here and play with the computer. So to kick things off, I'm just going to run you through what First Draft is all about. I'm here representing First Draft because the ABC in Australia was the first Australian publisher to join the network back in 2016. First Draft was first formed back in July 2015 when these 9 organisations who were all working in the social media verification space decided to pool their resources. Sadly, some of them no longer exist because there's no money in this kind of business, unfortunately. Reportedly has shut its doors. But these guys all decided that they had to get together to kind of create some standards in the industry and start to train other journalists. So First Draft was born. If you don't know this site, I highly recommend you bookmark it. They have a lot of free resources for journalists in there. A lot of the videos are 1 minute long, so they're not going to take up too much of your time. The main reason we created this was to create free resources for journalists. It's actually in 4 languages now, and they're experimenting at the moment with an Arabic language Twitter handle to see if we can handle more languages in future. When we launched the partner network, it was a big success. There's now currently more than 100 global newsrooms involved, and Facebook, Twitter, obviously Google is heavily involved as well. We all talk to each other. We're a global community and we talk to each other in a closed network. If you're interested in finding out more about this network and how you might join, please come and have a chat with me afterwards. It's very, very useful to be part of it. We've had 4 partner meetings so far in Hong Kong, New York, San Francisco and London, and there's another one planned for New York this year. If you're actually from a university, there is an academic network as well that's currently got 35 members. So if you want to take home some very useful resources for students, I'd suggest getting involved. When we came out to Hong Kong and Seoul in March, it became pretty clear that this is obviously a very big and complex and nuanced region for misinformation. And there's lots of different reasons behind it. There's religious and ethnic divisions, there's political influence, and you've got the problem of straight out propaganda. You know, we've heard about the kinds of things. I was reading about your recent elections where you had a whole host of hoaxes circulating, things like contaminated chili seeds to wage biological warfare against Indonesians, or vaccination programs designed to make girls infertile. Now, we know those stories were false, but they circulated very heavily on social media. If you have resources to share with us, please come and talk to us, because we know that you use a lot of platforms and chat apps that we don't necessarily use a lot of in Australia or in places like New York. But we know, for example, that WeChat is massive over here, that WhatsApp is massive, Line is huge. So we really want to keep expanding our resources and find out what people are using and try and develop resources for those platforms as well. So to fake news. Everyone's talking about it recently, and it seems like a new phenomenon, but obviously it's not. Does anyone know what might have caused this spike on January the 11th? Any ideas who might have been responsible for this sudden spike?
You get a sticker if you answer.
No ideas? He's an orange man. Yeah, you got it. Donald Trump. It was when he held his press conference as his first one as president-elect, and he called out CNN as a fake news outlet. Now, he's continued to do this with the mainstream press in the United States. And I think people like the Washington Post have been called fake, for example, which is a little bit hard to stomach if you're a journalist. We think at First Draft that the term fake news is becoming a little bit overused. It's become quite meaningless because politicians especially are using it to describe news that they just don't like. So if someone says something about Trump and he doesn't like it, he says fake news. And then he gets retweeted thousands and thousands of times. People start to believe the rhetoric. We've got politicians now in Australia who are starting to parrot Trump. They're starting to do the same thing. And we're a bit concerned that's a problem that's going to grow. We'd like to think about it instead as a misinformation ecosystem. And I'm going to run you through very quickly what that means. Misinformation is information that is false, but the person who is disseminating it believes it to be true. Disinformation, which is a much bigger problem, used by a lot of governments around the world, is information that is false, and the person who is disseminating it knows it is false. That is a really big problem. When you break it down further, and I'm sorry you can't see this, it's not very clear, but I think you've got handouts on your table. You've got the 7 types of mis- and disinformation. This is your take-home guide for the things I'm about to show you. There's lots of different motivations for why people share this kind of content. We should be really worried in particular about the systematic disinformation campaigns, because social networks are very polarised these days, and you've all heard about the Facebook filter bubble, which is a big problem. So these propaganda atoms are starting to circulate at really high speed. They can be targeted directly to certain users, and then those people who are likely to accept that message are going to share it with their friends, and because they're a trusted source, their friend is going to share it, and it can just go at really high speed. This is more worrying than any other kind of fake news that we're seeing out there. To run you through a few of the examples very quickly, I'm sorry that's a terrible, we're having problems with the clarity of our presentation. But The Onion, I'm sure you've all heard of The Onion. It's a very funny satirical news website. Satire makes it very difficult to create any algorithmic way to manage fake news, because the internet would be no fun without satire, let's face it. Sometimes though, jokes can go too far. This actually started off as a joke. This is a tweet from the French election, and it shows the far left candidate wearing a Rolex watch, which is clearly at odds with his political leanings. Now, the person who created this said it's a joke over and over, but this image has been appropriated and it's been used on right-wing sites widely in the run-up to the election as proof that the man is a fraud. This tweet went out from the person who created it. You can see he's got, I think, one retweet saying, "Hey guys, I didn't mean it." But it's too late. The image has been appropriated and used by other people. This is the classic kind of clickbait. This is a misleading connection. When you look at this, it's very typical. You know, what happened next is amazing. And then you click on it and you go to a website and it's full of ads and it's incredibly annoying. And you always, you know, slap yourself when you fall for this kind of stuff and click on it. The problem is that every time you do click on it, someone somewhere is making some money. So please try and resist. This is another example here of false context. Now this is an example from, you can't see this very well, but this image which has a man holding a knife to his throat. After the London Westminster attack, this circulated through Russian news websites and social media, and it went viral, and it's supposed to show the perpetrator of the Westminster attack, when in fact it's a guy who was arrested outside Buckingham Palace back in 2013. This kind of stuff is actually really easy to check. I don't know if everyone's familiar with Google reverse image search, but it's a very, very simple tool that will help you to ascertain this image is actually from a completely different event. This is in your new bag of tricks. This is an example of false context again. Now this is a very heartwarming picture, and it's supposed to show Nepalese children comforting each other after the terrible earthquake. That's nice, except it's not. It was actually taken 7 years earlier. It shows Vietnamese children, and the photographer said, "Hey, that's not about Nepal at all." But you can see the big problem is that the original tweet, you can't see the numbers probably, but the original tweet got 7,000 retweets, and the correcting tweet got 3,000 retweets. This is a problem that we see all the time, that the hoax material gets huge widespread coverage, and then the debunking gets very little. It's a big problem. This is a case of imposter content. So Eric Trump retweeted this ABC news site. Unfortunately, he retweeted a fake news website. He probably doesn't care. If you look at the domain, you can't see that, sorry, but it says abcnews.com.co. Now that is not an official ABC News website. Very easy mistake. It looks exactly like the original site, but you can actually really, really easily clone websites using a tool called Clone Zone, and that's happened to the Daily Mail and the New York Times as well. Images like this from North Korea have been deliberately manipulated. This is supposed to be a big show of force from North Korea. Actually, it is heavily photoshopped, and all of the boats that you can see in that image are actually just pasted on top of the image again. So if you've got a good photographer in your department and you show them this image, they'd probably debunk it instantly. This is probably the top hoax of last year. This would be pretty amazing if Pope Francis had actually endorsed Donald Trump for president, but he didn't. This is a site that's now being shut down called WT0E5 News. This story went crazy on social media. BuzzFeed did an analysis on the top stories last year, and this story got almost 1 million Facebook engagements. To put that figure into perspective, the top story for the New York Times in that same period got 370,000 engagements. So you can see how much further these things travel. With this website, they even had a disclaimer on their page saying, "This is satire or pure fantasy," but it didn't stop people sharing it around and accepting it as true. This other example here, this is published by the Denver Guardian in November, got 500,000 Facebook engagements. They claim to be Denver's oldest news source, which was a big surprise to the actual oldest news source, the Denver Post. And they had to publish a piece saying, "There is no such thing as the Denver Guardian, despite what you saw on Facebook." And this one guy here, Jesse Friedland, was the one voice that said, hey, can we trust this? Because there's only a single source. So I think he's a fact checker in the making. All of this political stuff is particularly worrying because it travels really far. I think 23 of the top performing Facebook stories, hoaxes, in 2006 were focused on US politics. Now, you can imagine the kind of damage that's done. You look at this Hillary Clinton tweet, for example, suggesting that people could stay home and vote by text message. Who knows how many people bought that story and didn't turn up to vote? They could have made a difference. Often you'll see information circulated these days in memes because they're highly digestible, they're very creative, they're very convincing, and they're very easy to share. These are the 8 reasons that First Draft has been identified as the reasons that misinformation and disinformation is created and shared. Can you read that? Poor journalism, parody, provoking, they all start with P for some reason. Passion, partisanship, profit, political influence, and propaganda. It's important to note that profit is not the only motivation for the circulation of this stuff. That's how it's often framed, but it's much more complex than that. And people will share stuff for a whole variety of reasons. We need to think about at last how this stuff is being disseminated, because it's getting to be quite a serious issue. Some of it is being shared by people who are just kind of not double checking what they do. Some of it, they're not thinking about the implications. Some of it is being shared by people who are trying to influence public opinion. Some of it's being shared by journalists who don't go through their own checks to say, should I be sharing this? Am I convinced it's true? But there's more sophisticated networks at play these days. You've got BuzzFeed during the US election traced a whole bunch of fake news websites back to Macedonia, a town called Velez, where they found 140 fake news sites just pumping out the fake stories and sending it out through a sophisticated social media network and just earning money from doing it. People are also getting paid to promote certain messages. This is an example from Australia where they're trying to get a new coal mine up and running, and when the boss tweeted a picture of himself with our Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, all of these replies to his tweets started rolling in, suggesting what a great thing it was for Australia because it would create jobs. When in fact a reporter, Mark DiStefano, noticed that all the accounts were posting with the same 3 hashtags, all the accounts were based in India, and they were all sending the same message. And then eventually he got this, you can't read that, but it says, it's someone contacting him saying, hey, there's actually people getting paid to promote these messages. There's also the rise of the bots. I was talking to a colleague about this yesterday. I don't know yet just how big an issue the bots are. There's a lot of talk about it at the moment. You can see FBI is starting to investigate whether Russian operatives are working with right-wing news websites in the States to create this very sophisticated, very widespread disinformation campaign. I was reading a story by Maria Ressa from Rappler, who I'm sure many of you know, in the Philippines. She was talking about how Twitter bots first made an appearance back in 2015 when the president was making his run, and that they were sending out thousands and thousands of messages. And then later on in her investigation, she said campaign insiders were paying for trolls and fake accounts, and they're paying people with huge followings to circulate their propaganda. This is becoming more of a feature of our landscape. French election is also been subject to the same problems. There's investigations now there to see if Russia is doing the same thing there to try and destabilise the European Union. I'll talk a bit about cross-check that we just mentioned then, but you can see that people who are trying to purvey the truth these days are really up against it. They've got a very sophisticated system working against them. So we'll give you some tips on how to spot a fake news site. Now obviously these are not all-encompassing. I think common sense comes into it, like Steffi was suggesting, your gut instinct. But it's quite remarkable how many people don't do the basic checks to satisfy themselves that something is true. Often these websites will look very, very similar to the real thing, and one of the big problems with social networks in particular is that the false news sites often appear very similar to the real news sites, and people are having, increasingly, it's harder and harder to differentiate between what's real and what's not. So Claire wrote up these tips for International Fact Checking Day that Pointer had recently. So what you want to do is definitely check the web address. I mean, that abcnews.com.co is a really good example. Looks kind of legitimate, but it's not. It's obviously a false website. If you have a look at the logos, you'll often see that they are kind of right, but not really. They might be a bit blurry or fake looking. This is one of the best checks you can do. There's lots of sites, and we've given you some lists of these in your resources. Whois.com, who.is, and whoisican, they all sound very similar, will tell you, they'll give you information about when a site was registered and by who. If you've never used these tools, these are fantastic, because often they'll even give you email addresses and phone numbers of the person who's registered the site. Obviously, if someone is writing stories about US news and they're based in Macedonia, you should be very, very suspicious. So I would definitely have these tools in your repertoire. Also look for the other markers of established news sites. Often stuff will circulate. It might be a story that's a couple of years old and it suddenly resurfaces in relation to a recent event. If there's a byline for a journalist and they've never written anything else that you can find on the web, I'd be very suspicious of that. Be careful of hyperlinks. There's one example that I saw recently where when you click on the hyperlink on a fake site, it will take you to the real site, which makes it look legitimate. So you have to be really, really careful about that. And just go through these basic checks to satisfy yourself that these are true. I'm sorry you can't see that. It's one of our terribly blurry slides, but obviously the social networks, you just heard about what Google's doing for flagging news. Facebook has gone from taking it not very seriously at all. I think in November 2016, Mark Zuckerberg said the idea that these sites could have influenced the outcome of the US election was a crazy idea. And since then, they have done a hell of a lot to try and work with fact checkers around the world to improve their response to this. So at the moment, you guys might have seen here in Indonesia, you get this at the top of your Facebook feed, which gives you tips about how to detect and flag fake news. They've started letting users flag what they think is a fake news story, and then those stories will go off to the international fact-checking network partners, who will, if they agree that it looks a little bit suspect, will flag a story, and then when you see it in your feed, it's got fake news in red, so you think twice about sharing that information. Has anyone seen that here yet? I've seen that. No, not here yet. I've seen it in my feed. They recently shut down 30,000 accounts in France just before the election. And just last week, they finally admitted that they've become a battleground for governments who are trying to use social media for political influence and geopolitical gain. So I think we're going to start to see a lot more of a sustained effort from them. So just before we move on to newsroom models quickly, this is a story about a student dressed as a clown, and he stepped on a landmine in Cambodia and he was blown up. Did anyone hear about that story? Did you have the crazy clown stories here? 2016? Yep. They were the biggest hoax stories of 2016. Just to show you a quick example from Australia. How do I play this? Is that going to work?
Hi, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Bites. And imagine this. You married your twin that never knew. Oh, that is horrendous. But can you believe it? Well, Kiss FM, the Daily Mail and New Idea certainly did. Ripping it out of the Mississippi Herald, whose incredible story had no names, no details of any sort. And guess what? As BuzzFeed's revealed, it is nonsense. As you may have guessed from this other story in the Mississippi Herald, which is a fake news site. As ever.
Anyway, sorry about that last example. Just if you don't know what that is, that man in Australia, we're all terrified of that man because it's a show called Media Watch. And if you end up on Media Watch, you've done something very, very bad. And you basically get shamed in front of all the other journalists in the country. So it keeps us in line. Okay, so just very quickly before we move on, we'll test your skills here. that going to work? Whoop. Okay. Where's my cursor gone? Can we see this okay? Yeah. Okay. Do we think that Tiffany Trump, Donald Trump's daughter, would have posted this image? Real or fake? Raise your hand if you think it's real. No one's going to do it, are they? No one's brave enough. What do you think? Fake? Correct. Well done. Okay. None of us know who that is, so we'll move on from him. Okay. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said we're ready for World War II. Real or fake? World War III. Sorry, World War III. We've had World War II. Anyone? Anyone?
Real or fake?
Fake? Oh, very good. Well done. Okay. This poll of the French elections shows Marie Le Pen is in the lead. Tough one. What do you think? Sure? Looks like a legitimate news site. Fake? Fake? Oh, correct. Okay. Is this Trump quote real or fake? You tell people a lie 3 times, they will believe anything. You tell people what they want to hear, you play to their fantasies, and then you close the deal. You think real? Real? Oh, no. Oh, well, maybe he's got, give him some credit. Maybe he didn't say that. Maybe he's a nice guy. Oh, we've already had that one. And Snapchat was hacked last year, leaking information on 1.7 million users. Ooh. Real? You think? No. So look, if you want to test yourself, BuzzFeed puts up these quizzes quite routinely, and they're pretty good fun. If you didn't do very well, don't worry, because BuzzFeed found, they did some studies last year, and they found that fake news headlines fool Americans about 75% of the time. And 42% of people said they don't trust news on Facebook anymore, which is a really big problem for all of us, because we're in that space, and Facebook is where a lot of our news goes as well. So if people are starting to think that they don't trust anything they see on Facebook, we're all in trouble. Okay. All right, very quickly. I'm going to skip very quickly through this next part so we can get hands-on, and then I can stop boring you with the sound of my voice. This is just some different approaches to fact-checking by different news organisations. Journalists used to have kind of 2 roles in this space. The first was fact-checking factual assertions by official sources like governments or the police. And then there's verification, which you're all familiar with and which Steffi's an expert in, which is looking at text, images, video that's mostly been shared by the public or other journalists on social channels with a particular focus on unofficial sources and eyewitnesses. But now we're being expected to play in a third space, which is debunking. And it's kind of unfair. It's largely fallen to journalists to start letting people know that something is true or false, because we're trying to restore the trust in our own profession, which is kind of ironic when you think about it, that this job is ours. I do recommend, if you are part of a news organisation and you're interested in this, do look up the International Fact-Checking Network at Pointer. They have a lot of free resources as well. They're another First Draft partner of ours. And they have an accredited network. So if you join the network of fact checkers, you basically get a big tick from the global community of fact checkers. So the different models, we'll kick off with Storyful, which I'll let Steph talk on this one because she's from Storyful.
Yes, who's not familiar with Storyful? Just so I can get an understanding. So everyone knows us? Surely not.
Does anyone use it?
Okay, who knows what Storyful is?
Oh.
Okay. Who does not? Brilliant. Okay. I'm here to fix that. So Storyful started around, I feel like I can't, there we go, connecting. I feel like I'm connecting better when I stand up. Okay, so Storyful started around 2010. It was started by an Irish broadcaster named Mark Little, and he became completely fascinated with user-generated content, which is a long way of saying any video or image that's uploaded to social media or online, okay? So if you hear me say UGC or Flip say user-generated content, that's what that is. But how do we go about verifying it? So if we look at, for example, in Caracas, in Venezuela, there's a lot of protests going on. So how do you know if something uploaded today is actually from today, but not from protests 2 years ago, protests last week? You know, these are important questions that no one knew how to answer, and this is what Mark Little sought to do. And this started in around 2010, and it's grown massively. And we're just going to show a quick video just how we operate, and this is from the Dublin headquarters.
We are part of a golden age of journalism and storytelling. Everybody now is a storyteller. There's hundreds of hours of YouTube video uploaded every single minute. But when everybody's telling a story, which stories are worth listening to?
Storyful is the first social media news agency in the world.
One of the big stories we've been covering today is Yemen. We found this pretty dramatic video. So what we want to do is go to Google Maps, establish the location. We find the building here, which matches exactly. And now we're going to attempt to get clearance for the content and provide it to our clients for use. Hi, my name is Joe Galvin. I'm a journalist with the news agency Storyful.com.
We've really prided ourselves in trying to build technology matched with expert journalism to basically mine the social web.
Anything that's happening on social media anywhere in the world, on any platform, we find it, we curate it, we post it.
Technology has really made our job different in that we can get the stories that are meaningful and truthful out there.
Google tools and services have been critical for us since the very beginning, from translation to 24-hour Google Hangouts. When human skill matches really cool technology, it's greater than the sum of the parts. And that's the reason why Storyful has had such traction.
It's about storytelling, being able to match that with technology to find the stories worth telling. How do we take the pulse of the internet to get to the truth and really contextualize it, editorialize it?
Defining the narrative, that's the search for truth. And that's what Storyful is doing, bringing an authenticity to storytelling.
Like generated content.
It makes me feel empowered that social media today is such a vital role in
Okay, so we actually use Storyful at the ABC. It's a subscriber service, and we'll show you a quick screenshot at the end of what that looks like. Very quickly, to run you through some of the models for fact-checking teams. The earliest known fact-checking team in a newsroom was Glenn Kessler at the Washington Post. They're still going today. They set up in 2007. Most of their fact checks start with an inquiry from a reader, and people will send in with this hashtag #FactCheckedThis, and they will request that these guys have a look and test some of the claims. This is one of my favourite fact checkers because they use the story of Pinocchio. Does everyone know that story? So one Pinocchio is kind of bending the truth. 4 Pinocchios, massive lie. If something passes muster and it's decided that it's true and it's nothing but the truth, they get what's called the Geppetto check mark, which is a really nice way of putting it. This was an amazing effort from NPR during the first presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. They had about 50 people working on a single Google Doc, and they, almost in real time during the debate, had the use an API to pull in the closed captioning, and then they had people in there cleaning it up, fact-checking. In the end, they did 74 annotations, and people could follow along in real time and watch these claims being checked, which is a really fantastic effort. The vast majority of Trump's assertions were wrong, and Hillary's were not, apparently. 6 million people checked that out that day. It was the highest day for NPR ever in terms of their traffic. So there's a great public appetite for this kind of stuff, and it's a really easy model that you might like to try. BBC has something called Reality Check. They're a big part of Crosscheck, which I'll talk about very quickly in a moment. BBC is having problems like everywhere, particularly around elections. We see this really massive upswing in fake news or false news, like Brexit and the US election have really ramped up. couple of examples. They publish stories like this on their website. So they'll actually publish the information, the misinformation that's circulating, and then they'll write stories about why it's actually not true, and they'll actually point people to the methods that they use to determine that. This is another example from something called The Observers, or Les Observateurs in France. I actually saw this one in my social media feed, and this is after the recent attacks in London. Someone posted this lovely heartwarming image of a tube sign saying that Londoners would drink tea and carry on after the terrorist attack. This went crazy on social media. MPs read it out in Parliament, which is really embarrassing. In fact, it was made on a website that lets you make a fake sign. So it's another example of, you know, people not doing their due diligence checks. RMIT ABC Fact Check. RMIT. RMIT first. We have a representative here if anyone is interested. I've warned Gordon I'm about to give away all of their trade secrets. Our editor Russell Skelton's not here this week, but Gordon is, and if you're interested in learning more about how a news organisation can partner with a university to set up a fact-checking model, this is the guy to talk to over here. ABC has final editorial control, thank you RMIT, and the material goes all across our networks. We're relaunching on June the 1st, yep. So it goes across the entire ABC network as well as the academic network as well. I don't expect you to read these slides, but just to show you, we've got workflows that we can share with you if you are interested about how this model's been set up. I'm going to zoom very quickly through this part just to mention these couple of big projects that we did around elections. So the first one is Electionland, and this was created by ProPublica with First Draft, and it was a really huge effort. It was around a single day in November last year, and it involved 600 journalism students, 14 different journalism schools, 400 reporters, many news outlets and social networks, all getting together to see if there was any interference with voting in the United States elections. I won't go through this in too much detail, but they set up 3 different desks. The first one was manned by lots of students, and they were looking for any evidence of voter suppression. And they used a whole range of tools. We'll give you a list of those afterwards. And they looked across all the social networks in real time to see what they could find. Keep these things in mind because you're going to need these in a few minutes. These are the things that they were looking out for. And they used a tool that you might like to check out for your own newsroom. It's called Check. It's an open source tool, and it's by someone called, a company called Meedan, M-E-E-D-A-N. And this was actually designed for verifying social media around after the presidential elections in Egypt, after the revolution. And it's a tool that lets you organize your newsroom around your social media content. What the feeders did, they went off to the capture desk who double-checked their work, and then it went off to the national desk for reporting. The next big project, which is still going, is Crosscheck. It involves 37 newsrooms in France and the UK. There's lots of information about this online if you're interested in doing something like this. They are basically working together collaboratively to debunk a whole range of stories that have risen up around the French election, which I'm sure you know is a very fraught election and a very serious election for Europe. Basically, under this model, newsrooms will check a claim, and then once they've done their own check, they share that information with all these other newsrooms, and if they agree that yes, that information is not true, that information gets their logos put on it, and then it gets shared out across the network. Everyone can write the story, everyone gets the information. So I'll just skip past these quickly. This is the workflow. If anyone is interested in this, we can have a chat about this in a bit more detail after the session. Crowdsourced efforts. I want to show you this one from Colombia because it uses WhatsApp, and it's actually really clever. It's a newsroom called La Silla Vacía. and they're actually kind of turning the network on itself. So they receive requests from the public. People send them information on WhatsApp. They do all the fact-checking, and then they send it back through the WhatsApp network, and they ask the person who sent them the information to share it with their own network again. And this is fact-checking on foot. If you're a journalist of one, you can do this. Facebook Live, take to the streets. This guy does his own fact-check. Oh, sorry. I'll skip over that video because I want to make more time here. This is, I think, does anyone in the room from Turn Back Hoax? No one. Secret organisation. We're meeting these guys tomorrow. They've set up their own fact-checking outfit, and we're really excited to learn a bit more about this, discover more about what they do. But this one is here in Indonesia. Okay, so we're going to get into some of the hands-on activities now. This is one of we found this on Turn Back Hoax in Indonesia. If we can...
Does anyone need the link again for the document? Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to just go back to slide 65? Go to slide 1.
Okay. Slide 1.
Okay.
If you have your laptop, would use this because the extensions don't exactly work on mobile. It's not as user-friendly.
So just type in goo.gl, capital W, lowercase y, capital W, capital O, H.
If you don't have a laptop, please look over your neighbor's shoulder. Don't be shy. Trade business cards after.
Also, in case anyone needs to know, the password for the Wi-Fi here now is Jakarta 2017, all lowercase. They just changed it, so.
Which is not a great secure password, I think you'll agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Jakarta 2017. Yep, all lowercase. Jakarta.
Okay, how do I, all right, what do we say? Okay. All right. So, this is a video. Did anyone see this video in their social feed if you're from Indonesia? No?
Raise your hand. I see people nodding.
Yeah?
Let's be more active. Raise your hand, guys, if you saw this video.
Otherwise, we get in trouble. So this circulated really widely on WhatsApp, apparently, and this image purportedly shows a cow crossed with a pig, and there was a suggestion that it's very dangerous to eat, and that consumers should not buy meat imported from Australia or New Zealand, as it's been developed to destroy the Muslim community. Now, I can tell you, as an Australian, we have done no such thing. And we wouldn't. In fact, this image is from an old video showing cattle from England. Now we're going to give you your first super useful tool, which is the Amnesty YouTube Data Viewer. Has anyone come across this before? Yep. It's a really useful tool. This will let you check out any video on YouTube and do a reverse image search, as well as find the original date that an image, that a video was uploaded. So if you can just, in your folder of activities, if you can just open up the YouTube link and then run it through this tool. Okay, I'm just going to open up the YouTube link as well. YouTube.com. This one here. Okay, I'm going to copy that. So all you got to do with this tool is just drop the address into the YouTube data viewer, and it will bring up a whole bunch of images to reverse image search. But you can see here that this video was first circulating back in 2014. So it has not suddenly been bred as something to breed out people here. Okay, we'll skip past that one. This is where it gets tricky. Okay, now I'm going to hand over to Steffi. She's going to run you through a whole bunch of useful plugins.
Yes, so if you stay open with your activity sheet, there's a couple extensions in there. Extensions are a great way to have a great workflow. Instead of creating a new tab and then finding the URL, please use the extensions. So one of the ones we have is Google's reverse image search. For those who aren't familiar, it essentially processes the data, it recognizes the pixels, and finds similar images to help you identify if the image is true or when it was first uploaded. It doesn't confirm it, but it helps you corroborate if there's any issues. Another tool or extension is Revi reverse image search, and that uses many different search engines. So that's another one to use to verify an image.
And another one,
Oh, oops. And then the other one is TinEye, which does the same thing. So if you go to your activity sheet, if you look at this link, if you click it, and we're going to use the Google extension to see what pops up. So how do I?
So this is an emu with shark teeth.
Is it working?
Yep.
How do I get? Oh, no, I have to look. Okay, so with the extension, instead of downloading an image, we can just right-click it. Is this it? I can't see. Yep. And what pops up are other images associated with what we just looked up. I can't. Can you help me with this?
Yeah,
There we go. So if you look at that second image, we see that it doesn't have Jaws teeth, and it's from an earlier upload date. This is a humorous one to look at, but obviously in especially viral images, this is really, really, really helpful.
You'll have to forgive us as we flip through these slides. It's a bit tricky to come in and out of these. So we're just going to show you another video. This is from First Draft. There's lots of videos like this on the website. A quick explanation of how to use Google reverse image search on your desktop. I'm sorry, that's a little bit hard to see again. Apologies for the fuzzy screen at the moment. Okay, the next tool that we're going to get you to have a look at, this is called Smart Shot Screen Capture. If you just click on the links in your activities, you will find the link. And this is just really useful, particularly if you're trying to look at images that you want to annotate on the web. This will let you clip the screen and you know, circle bits that you might want to check or write text for your colleagues on there as well. I think I'll just skip on to the next one. We'll just go to Google Translate.
Google Translate is one of our favorite extensions at Storyful because we're covering news around the world. So if you don't have Google Translate, highly recommend it. We're going to, on the activity sheet with the link. Yeah. Okay, so sometimes when we're looking at a story, the thing that we want, especially to corroborate the veracity of a story, is to get as local as we can. So if you can find the original language, that is ideal. So in this story, if we wanted to see what was happening, we could highlight it, and then there's a little icon. Wait. Yeah. There's this little icon here that pops up. And then you can see quickly just one sentence that will save you time. If you were wanting the whole story, click here, and then it will show you the entire story. Now, Google Translate is not perfect, but it's a fantastic reference. And it's a great way to help you find a location when looking at a video. So bear in mind that if you're looking at a translation and it's going perfect, Flip was walking down the street and went to the store Rose Hip Dot Avenue. It sounds a bit off, Rose Hip Dot. What that usually signifies it's a location. It could be a street, but that Google Translate, because it's such a unique name, isn't picking up. This is something to keep in mind, that Google Translate is also great to help identify the exact cross street or give any hints of where something is taken. If Google Translate, if you're finding that, especially in more regional languages, which Irene was saying that they're getting more robust with the translations, don't be afraid to also use Bing as a guide as well.
Okay, so you've got your first few extensions, and if you didn't get the chance to download those now, please do it when you go back to the office, because they'll be really, really useful to you. You have a big responsibility. You have more responsibility than the average person because you're journalists. We all play a really crucial part in this new ecosystem, and every time that you share an image or some information without double checking it first, you're adding to the noise and confusion out there. So you have to take your responsibility seriously. Every event comes with the sharing of false content, and we see this with every major event. There's something that goes horribly wrong. You know, the Boston bombing a few years ago, the wrong people were named as perpetrators. I showed you the London Westminster attack example. During that one, a guy called Abu Izzadeen was named as the perpetrator of the Westminster attack when he was actually in jail. But that didn't stop the information circulating on social media. The next part of this presentation is going to be going through the process, and Steffi's going to run this one because this is what Storyful does every single day, and their journalists are very, very fast and very talented at it.
Very kind. Okay, so when you're looking at an image, you know, what are the first questions you should ask? It's essentially 5. The first is the provenance. So are you looking at the original piece of content? So if we reflect back on the Amnesty Data Viewer, the reverse image search, that'll quickly give you some answers. Perhaps that instinct kicks in and you know it is original. So the next question is, who captured the content? It's really important to look at the image or the description of any video and look at how they're describing an event. So let's say there's an explosion across the street. If you see an image uploaded that says #breaking, explosion in Jakarta, look at this, would you think that's original? Would you think that's the original uploader? No. And the reason that is because usually uploaders will describe things with personal pronouns. So I, me, we, us, I just saw this, can't believe it. Put the person in, imagine yourself being someone that just witnessed this. So pay attention to the language of how something's described. If it is distant, such as #breaking, that's a red flag. But it's at least a start to find the original. The next is date, and this is the most difficult to confirm. As we were mentioning with Caracas, how do you know something happened? A protest video happened today as opposed to 2 years ago, as opposed to 2 weeks ago. So there are things to consider, such as timestamp, which we'll go over later. There's also, if we see with an image, remember I was verifying a video and the radio was on, and you could hear that they were announcing a sporting event that night. That's a strong corroboration. So I could look online, see which team is playing who, and then that would get a very, very strong corroboration as to when exactly the image took place. So listening is just as important as looking. And then finally, the location, which we'll get into as a tool, but where was the content captured? This is a particular item of interest, particularly with videos in the Middle East, with the chaos going on, the terrible images that pull through with the Syrian war. How do we know that a child pulled from the rubble is from Homs, for instance, and not Aleppo? How do we know it's not from Libya 4 years ago? So these are things to consider. And finally, why was the content captured? This is a particular thing with viral videos. Maybe someone wants to make a buck, someone wants to fool you, someone wants clicks. If you have a right-wing person uploading a video, why are they uploading a video of a liberal politician saying X, Y, Z, and vice versa, a liberal uploader saying something about a right-wing politician? So what we're going to watch now is this video.
Come on! He's not gonna do it! Oh! Yes! Yes!
Who thinks this video is fake? Don't be shy. I'm American, we like our hands up. Who thinks it's real? No. See some shy people? Okay. If I can pick on someone, can someone tell me why they think it's fake? Don't go silent.
Come on, don't be shy, guys.
Don't be shy. Yes. Wait.
The sounds is like near to them, like close to them, so it doesn't make sense that it comes from the airplane.
Exactly. So this was described as in Australia. That was all we had to go on. And you can't really see the image here, but the arrow that points is you can barely make out the words appliances. And so what we did next is we went to Google and just a simple appliances blimp. And then that's the exact, or it may not be the exact, but we can see the brand. It's Appliances Online, based in Victoria, Australia. And then a bit more searching, we found that they frequently fly around the Melbourne area. The other thing, as you were mentioning, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but she's right, the sound. How do we know that a blimp could make that noise? And this is where social media is great to find resources and experts quickly. So this video was sent around on a Saturday morning in Australia. So I called Appliances Online. Obviously no one's there, the comms team fast asleep or enjoying their weekend, and they say, we'll get back to you on Monday. We obviously don't have that much time. So then we went to LinkedIn and then just simply Googled blimp pilot. And you'd be surprised at how many experts there are in this. And I didn't need specifically a blimp pilot in Australia, just anyone who knew about blimps and how they work. So we contacted Nick Maggio. He's a blimp pilot for the Philadelphia Flyers. And the main thing we took away was, he says, communication with the air traffic control is done through the blimp's radio systems. Landing and takeoff interactions are primarily executed through hand signals. Although the video is amusing, it has no basis in fact. So social media is also a great way to corroborate something's true or false, in this case false. There was another guy who I reached out. He was based in, I think, Bratislava, and he was much more curt with saying, he goes, it's a simple matter of physics. Obviously, all the windows would shatter if that was true. So sometimes you'll get some interesting characters as well. Okay. Is this me?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, you have a copy of the checklist. In your handouts, there's another one here. Is it this one? The verification guide. Does everyone use LinkedIn? Yeah? Yeah. Does everyone know how to find an expert on LinkedIn? Yeah?
Just to add, LinkedIn has advanced search, so it's really good if you just want to narrow down the radius of where someone is, actual profession, etc.
Also, does everyone have a free LinkedIn premium account? No. If you Google, make sure you remember this, Google LinkedIn for Journalists, it's a group. If you sign up and listen to them talk for 2 hours, they will give you a free LinkedIn premium account for 1 year. And then the next year, you just have to listen to them talk again for 2 hours. But it's actually it's very useful. They actually show you how to use LinkedIn. It's a really great resource, and it's free. So make sure you take advantage of that. It's just for journalists. So, you know, this is one time where being a journalist is profitable. So if you go to LinkedIn for journalists, it's a group. Those 2 hours, how do you find it? Well, that's a different question. I can't help you with that one. But you're here for 3 hours, so, you know, it's worth it.
Another reason to get signed up for that is because oftentimes if you don't have that access, you have to officially connect with someone on LinkedIn in order to send an email. When you have that access that Irene was just talking about, you don't have to connect. You can send an email directly. Okay, so just to quickly show, for those that don't know, did you go for it? Go for it. I just realized you need to sound. I can't see. I didn't even find it. Let's see. Crash. Is that pulled up? There you go. Am I spelling it right?
Yeah. That's it. Search.
Where's the advanced? I can't see this.
Okay.
So you can see that some people pull up. You can also, on the right side, if I can figure this out, yeah. You can see the locations, you can add one, current companies, past companies. Bear in mind, there are still fake people on LinkedIn. There are people who have a pay-as-you-go degree where you just pay $200 and suddenly you have a PhD in something. Definitely be wary of that. If you've never heard of them, Google their credentials, Google the university, because oftentimes you'll find that they've been shut down or they were never accredited to begin with.
Okay, thanks, Steffi. So just on to provenance. So you're looking at this original piece of content. So just be aware of what we call scrapes. Does everyone know what a scrape is? No? It's a term that's used for people who download social content, or they might download videos and then they re-upload into another social network and send stuff traveling all around the social universe. The big problem with that is that with all of the social networks, if someone downloads a video from YouTube and then re-uploads it to Facebook, all of the original information about who the author of that material is gone. WhatsApp is the same, so you have to be really, really careful about who you're attributing information to when you're getting stuff. And you have to check and see if someone's uploading material. Just go and have a look at their account and see if they've got a bit of a history of uploading stuff that's clearly not theirs. A really good indicator is, you know, if someone's in Australia and they're uploading material from Jakarta and they've got nothing to do with that particular event, it's a good sign they probably weren't at the event that they might be claiming to be at. Often stuff is used out of context as well. There's lots of people, particularly during breaking news events, will very deliberately share information that is false. And they do it for kicks. They like to see how far it can travel. And particularly during breaking news, you see stuff like, it's a bit murky, this tweet here, during the recent Brussels attacks. So this kind of looks like it could have been from there, but in fact it's got nothing to do with that event at all. But people are very, very quick during those events to share whatever they can find. You've got to be aware of composite images as well. This image on the right here has been used in lots of different events. It's a storm in Iowa, and it pops up routinely. In this case, it looks like it's Armageddon in New York City. That never happened. It would be pretty interesting if it did, but no, that event did not happen. But that's someone putting two images together to create one. You've got to be very careful. I know it's unfortunate, but you do have governments pushing out misinformation. I showed you disinformation, I should say. The Korean example we showed you before. This one is from Iran. It's back in 2008, quite a while ago now. And this image appeared on the front page of lots of the major press in the States. Unfortunately, it wasn't actually quite correct. You can see this is the original image showing that one of the rockets had failed to take off, but Iran wasn't prepared to have that, so they photoshopped in another image showing that their exercise had in fact not failed. And that caught out a lot of different news organisations. Be very, very careful of Photoshop. This is another good site that you have in your bag of tricks. It's called Izitru, IZITRU. And this is really useful, particularly when you have an image that someone is sending you that they're claiming is an original image. You can actually run it through this little engine and it will tell you if the image has been tampered with in any way. Now, it's not going to give you 100% of the information you need to know this image or not, but it's another check that you can do to satisfy yourself if something is true. I think we'll just skip on to Steffi again. Oh, break.
Make one quick note. I know that we're speeding through all these tools. The links are all in the Google Doc. So if you, I know we're just going so fast. If you don't get a chance to take notes, it is in the Google Doc. So please don't worry. Also, I think we're going to just, you guys have been such a good audience. Let's take a very quick break. Can we just come back by 3:30? So a 9-minute break. There's a way that you can do it on Google Docs where you can't download it and you can't print it out. And also you just put a big watermark over the whole thing. I think that's how we should do it. But I'll talk to you more about that. I'm going to give out these.
Huh? Well, it's just like images that were actually obtained off the internet that, you know what I mean? But not the words. No, the words, whatever. I mean, like, well, yeah, because the scripts also is, you know, not all of it's like reference. Like it's stuff, examples like even the dense stuff they just need access to. Yeah. Make tips. Like I don't think they really care about like having legislate on this stuff as well. Right. Yeah, I mean I think they'd be happy with the grab that. It's just they've got, you know. So where sure was it? It's a bit tricky. But I think it's okay. Like it was supposed to show that we're definitely going to make 3 hours. I don't think guys are fast. We make something happen. I guess so we can slow down. My here you go. Stuart was saying it's my car.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yes, so please just email me and we'll make something happen.
All right, thank you.
I think it's just like when I was doing it.
Can I have your card name?
Hi.
Your card name.
My name?
Card name.
Oh, I don't have a business card, but if you give me your email, I'm collecting details. So, is this you want some more information?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I'll give you my email. Do you have a pen?
Can
Oh,
I?
here's a pen, yeah. Left.
Hi, I'm a journalist from the Philippines.
Oh, which one?
GMA7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Fact check on foot. Was that correct?
Fact check on
foot?
the Facebook Live.
Okay, I didn't see it in the worksheet.
No, I can give you the link if
Yeah, it
you
was
like.
real fast. I didn't get the
Okay.
link. I'd be interested in checking that out. And also, you mentioned a tool called Check. Is that an app?
Hey! Did you get my mention?
I was in the other room and I was like, hey, nice to see you. How are you? Good.
Your article
So Check is an app. Is it an app? Okay. Oh, is that in that sheet? It should be in the sheet. All right, I'll look that up. Those are my two questions. So fact check on foot. She said, is that that's Facebook Live? Is it Facebook Live thing?
Okay. Flip. Is Check on Facebook Live only? No. Check. No, hang on. No. Twitter? Yeah. So my Twitter is just @Twitter. Facebook is same again.
Are you somewhere in the room?
I was in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Hold in here. I'm gonna get your pictures, guys. What? I'm gonna
How is it?
later.
Come back.
Yeah. I'll let you work.
Do you know Annalise? Yeah. So this is
Annalise.
the same on every.
Annalise, what?
Annalise and my name. So.
What?
She's on the morning show, I think.
Annalise.
Yeah. Send me a note and I will connect with you. Thank you.
Annalise Burgos. Yeah, I haven't heard of her.
Do you mind if we ask questions during the break? Yeah. My friend is the chief editor of Read.co itself, Islamic content site. But he has a question. I don't know whether is it possible for Google to cooperate with the government, at least to notify the public whether these links are fake or not. In your index.
So Google working with, that would be Irene.
Also.
She can speak more about Google working closer with Indonesia.
Oh, yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Here, let me give you my card.
Because the public here, they are very influenced by searching indexes, and somehow they might be easily misled with the links whether this is real news or fake news.
Yes,
absolutely.
Kita juga berharap pemerintah nggak diam aja gitu.
Because we hope that the government are very active to cooperate with Google, at least to notify, not censoring the content, at least to notify the public whether this link are fake or this link are not.
So we've actually been working, having discussions with like the Indonesian Press Council and others to talk about how to address this issue. And I think that our position is we want to help support journalists to fact check, because the thing is, we don't want to be deciding what should be, we don't want to do something. We're not interested in censorship, right? So we think it's better if journalists are able to really be the ones to help inform the public. So by allowing you guys to do the fact checking, and then if you use that fact check tag, like I mentioned, then your story that fact checks that information will move up higher in search. So that way, credible information from legitimate news organizations are going to be higher up than the fake.
What if the government make an official statement this article is fake or hoax?
going line by line. The video description was saying say you are. If they're not responding to you, don't risk it. It's also a red flag, because if they're uploading something as amazing as this and then they suddenly cut all communication, it's usually a fake. Is this one?
This is source.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Why those black don't mean that the video is fake?
Mm-hmm. So the video was manipulated with special effects to show the snake. The snake's not real, and so when the snake appears, and that's that black part of that black marking was for the snake to make it look real, right? But they forgot to delete the masking, what's called a masking, so it's part of the snake that came a bit too early, right? Oh, yep. So this is just going back to that digital footprint conversation. So if I'm looking at Flip, if Flip shared that video, I can see she's on Facebook, I can see she's on LinkedIn, and I can see she's on Twitter. And this is the same for most active social media users. And a good way to see this is by identifying the username. So for instance, I'm a creature of habit. My username is Steffi_Burnett for Twitter. It's Steffi_Burnett for Facebook, and it's the same for Instagram. Those are little tricks that can help you trace where the uploader is coming from.
I'm going to show you this image to my, or this slide to my great shame. I'm sorry you can't read any of that. But it's easy to get caught out by fake Twitter accounts. This happened to me, I'm ashamed to say, last week. We have a very controversial, well, we had a very controversial candidate in Pauline Hanson's One Nation party. He came onto the national stage. People started investigating him and they found that he had some very dubious matters in his past. And there was a story that came to the fore about how he'd taken some children out into the remote bush while he was working as a police officer and left them there and left them to walk back home on their own with no shoes on. So it was a big national scandal of a story. Next thing, this Twitter account appears, and it's Mark Ellis. It's the politician in question. And he says, you can't read that, but it says, "Hi Australia, my name is Mark Ellis and I'm the One Nation candidate for McAllister. Pleased to meet you. Let's open a dialogue." That should be a red flag, really. A guy who's in the middle of a big scandal is probably not going to get on Twitter to open a dialogue with the public because he knows what's coming. I fell for this because some of my colleagues in the industry who have the verified tick on Twitter were tweeting about it. And I trust those people. And so when they started tweeting this conversation that people were having, it was really easy for me to fall for it, and I didn't go through my usual checks. It took a little while, but one of the other journalists said, "Hang on, guys, this account looks like it's a fake." And then he went and he called the politician in question and he said, "Look, it's a fake." But this conversation has continued to circulate on social media sites, and it popped up in my Facebook feed again yesterday, and it's now being used by people for political gain. So it goes to show that these things, especially when journalists fall for these things, it can be a massive problem because people will believe it.
Great. Okay, this Twitter account popped up in March, describing itself as the Australian brand of Breitbart. For those who do not know what Breitbart is, it's a right-wing, far right-wing website. Stephen Bannon headed up that website. So if this was to have been introduced in Australia, that'd be quite a big deal. So we looked into this account. You can't really see it, but it's based in Australia. The username is @OzBreitbart. And so we wanted to see how true this account was. And so we looked into whois.com. And you can't see this.
That's very useful.
Okay, so what we got for OzBreitbart.com was the website did exist, but the question is who created it? And the OzBreitbart account was created, or OzBreitbart.com was created just a couple days before the OzBreitbart Twitter handle was active. Now, if you're a big PR company, or sorry, if you're a big brand of an online website like Breitbart, perhaps you didn't create a website 2 days before you launched it, right? So we looked into who it was, and it was a man named Jorian Gardner, who's based, there we go, who's based in the Australian Capital Territory, also known as ACT. And we can see .com.j@hotmail.com, even have his phone number. So when we look more into Jorian Gardner, we can see that he's part of an article, Fringe Festival, he runs a TV newsroom. His Twitter account posts some controversial things. And then we're looking back to that conversation about digital footprint. Who has he been tweeting at? What kind of stories has he been interested in? And you can see here that he responds to Pauline Hanson, who's the leader of One Nation, saying, "Did real Donald Trump invite you to write that tweet?" And he essentially has trolled a few politicians, particularly Trump and Hanson, to suggest that he is very anti-conservative, and he possibly created the account. And when we tried to contact him, he never came back to us for comment. So this led us to believe that the OzBreitbart Twitter account was indeed fake.
You will often see people sharing around screenshotted tweets. Now, I think I don't need to tell you about how careful you need to be about screenshotted tweets. If you want to make your own fake tweet, there's a lot of sites out there that will let you do it. This is my favorite that I found, fake Trump tweet. You can actually make a tweet where Donald Trump insults you and calls you fake news if you feel so inclined. But if you just have a quick go at this, we'll just open this up. I'll just show you how easy it is. Just hold that for a second. All right. Okay, so we'll go. I think he would say something like that. And it's taking a moment. And you can see there's my fake tweet. Thank you, Donald. Yeah, a lot of retweets. Now, I see people sharing stuff like this around, and obviously you can see that's extremely easy to screenshot that and share it out. And I would be extra cautious of screenshotted tweets because you really want to be able to click through and see that original content. You don't want to share something like this. That's my other one. He insults me all the time. Okay, we're going to give you another quick bunch of tools. This is the really fun stuff that lets you start to really dig into people's social identities. And these are some of the tools that First Draft has given us, and they are fantastic. They're not all perfect. A lot of these tools are very kind of basic. They look a bit ugly, but they do work. So the first one, we've given you this in your list of bookmarks. So just remember these sites as we go. This one is called follow.me. And what this will do will show you a bit more information than is available on someone's public Twitter profile. One of the more useful things it will do is show you the people that the person who's tweeting interacts with the most. So if you're trying to find some friends and family or associates of someone on Twitter, if you use this tool, you can actually see who they interact with the most to try and track down some of their friends and associates. This other tool here is Follow-a-Wonk, also in your folder. This tool will let you search in someone's Twitter bio for information about where they are. One of the tricky things about Twitter is that most of the information on Twitter isn't geolocated, which means you can't tell exactly where it's been sent from. I think it's something like 3% of tweets have that function on. So what this will let you do is search in someone's Twitter bio, so where they describe where they live and things like that, and you can actually find people on that basis. So to give you a quick demo, oops, sorry about that. So if I go So I go into Follow-a-Wonk and I just say search bios, and I can type in here Jakarta, and I can search people's Twitter bios for that information, and it will bring me up a list of users who mention the fact they're in Jakarta. You can also, if you want, organize people by how old the account is. Now, this is a particularly important thing, especially around breaking news. If you look at an account that suddenly started tweeting about something and they're claiming to be an authority, but their account is brand new, that's a pretty suspicious sign. Whereas if you see someone who's been on Twitter for quite a long time and you can see that most of their tweets are from that area or that context, then that gives you a bit more information about them. Okay, we'll go back to
How many of you are aware of social profiles? Does that phrase mean much to you, social profile? Yes? Okay. Social profile at Storyful, we're very big about this. So, for example, let's say the suspect of a terror attack is named. right? You want as much information that you can get on the person, ideally some images of who they are, literally a picture or a snapshot of who they are as a person. So, but how do you make sure, how can you get access to all of these images? I mean, the first thing you need is to verify that the name is correct, not listening to the noise that is constantly out there. But let's say you do have the person and you found them on Facebook. Graph Tips is one of my favorite tools. So to use Graph Tips, we need to start by, how do I get to the top? There we go. So, oh, that's okay. Okay, so username. Do not put in down here Facebook ID. That's not the same. So username, if I'm going to use myself, I hope nothing bad pops up. Okay, so this is my Facebook ID number. Now I want to see, so let's say I'm the suspect. Let's see photos made of this person. Let's see what we pull up. Okay. Oh dear. Okay, so here we are. I'm here. I am with my family on Christmas. We can see that my brother has shared this photo. So let's say, for example, I'm a suspect. You now have access to family members and going on their site to see if there's any more images of me. You can see here that my mother is also in the image. And it's just a quick way to get a snapshot of who we are. There's also, let's see, posts. I don't think that one works for me. Which one? Oh dear. I can tell you this will generate 0 results. Yeah, okay. Let's see, maybe restaurants visited? Ah, yes. I did go to Peter Luger Steakhouse for my brother's birthday in New York City. So this pulled up where I was at a specific time. So it's a bit creepy. I highly recommend just doing it on yourself as it's unfolding before your eyes as I do it to myself. But yes, Facebook, graph.tips, brilliant tool to help map out a social profile. Intel Techniques search tool, when searching for the real name, when you use the real name of a person, so if you scroll down to mine, yeah, real name. So let's say I did myself again. Now this is going to generate a lot of, if you look down below, these are all the sites that it's pulling from. People, Spokio, Yasni, Radaris, and so on. PQ, LinkedIn, Twitter. And I'm not going to hit enter on this because I think it's going to, it's so many tabs that will generate. It generates a tab for each search engine or platform. But then it's just a quick hit to get access to any possible profile that I have on the various sites.
If you have a look down the left-hand side here, these are all the different searches you can run, and this is a fantastic tool. Use yourself first and then go and see what you can find out about yourself, and it's quite incredible what it throws up. On some of these sites I put in my own name and it brought up my entire working history, where I've lived over the last few years. All kinds of things that you might not know are necessarily out there about yourself.
Okay, so People is a great site to generate a lot of biographical information on a person. You can't really see the details here, but it can generate what their career is like, the education. Also helps you find out contact details. Here we have PQ. That's another great tool. Here's Spokio. This search was for a man named Syed Farouk, I don't know if anyone recalls a shooting, one of many in the United States, involving the San Bernardino shooting. Syed Farook was mistakenly, the Daily Beast had initially had the wrong ID of who it is. So be careful when you see a name like Syed Farook. It's very common. They initially reported a story that said his brother was the suspect, when indeed it was not. Obviously, we know that now. The brother's name, the suspect was Syed Rizwan Farouk, and his brother was Syed Rahil Farouk. So, again, double check. There's a lot of names. There's a lot of similar people out there. Just make sure you get it right before going to print. Okay, we're going to watch another story. Oops. How do I do this?
天哪！天哪！天哪！好可怕哦！天哪！坠机耶！天哪！我的天哪！要不要？啊！天哪！
Okay, does anyone know this story? Yes. Okay, so this was the Taipei Airways crash in Taiwan. Or Taiwan, sorry, Airways. When this happened, there was no need to specifically think this was fake. It had been tweeted. It's also good to know what type of user-generated content is uploaded in specific areas. So for example, in Taiwan, dashcam footage is the norm. So this was not a red flag to us. If there was a lot of dashcam footage coming out of the States, for example, fewer people use that. But for Taiwan, that also was another aspect that confirmed, or at least corroborated that this was true. Now, when this video was uploaded, now we talked a lot about who the uploader is, when it was uploaded. And in this video, it was uploaded by a man named Aaron on YouTube in high resolution, 1080p, great resolution. When you have 1080p, it suggests that you have access to the original file. Yeah? So he confirmed that this was his video and that we can use it and that it was no problem at all. But there was a bit of an issue that we had because when we used Google Translate to look at the description, he was laughing, saying, ha ha ha, look what happened. Now, if you listen to the video, does it sound like this is something that someone who just witnessed what they saw would laugh about it? Absolutely not. They're clearly traumatized. So we pushed harder, and then he stopped answering questions. Now, if we recall, that's a red flag. Then we started looking into his social profiles, and we were looking at his friends. Because it was such good resolution, we figured he was in contact with someone who had the original footage. And we got lucky, and we found this guy who posted, and we can see the translation, "Rest in peace, I'm scared silly." So that definitely tallies with what we have of a person being a bit scared. Now, if we recall listening to the audio, it sounds like there's two people, also a woman who is visibly upset. And you can't see what she has here, but we looked at the comments that he had, and a woman says, "Super scary, this happened just right in front of us." So this leads us to believe that this is the woman in the car with him. It also appears to be, when we did more of looking and digging into who they are, that they're partners, boyfriend, girlfriend. So we contacted him. He was obviously very upset by what he saw, but he confirmed that it's his. He gave it to his friend, and he allowed us permission to use it. So this is a cautionary tale of people will lie to you. They will say it's your footage, and sometimes that instinct has to kick in. Look at the description. Would they laugh about something so traumatizing as this? And don't be afraid to ask questions, because if you start asking questions and then they're suddenly quiet, then you know that you have every right to be skeptical about what you just saw, or that they are the original uploader.
Okay. So the next thing you need to establish is when the content was captured. You want to really look around for content from the same location, and does this tally with what other people are sharing from the same time and place? This is really important. Take note of this particular slide here, because annoyingly, all the different social platforms have different conventions for how they display the date and time on social content. So YouTube videos and Instagram posts are date stamped with Pacific time, which is where their headquarters in California are. On Twitter posts, what you'll see on your tweet is what is in your Twitter settings, not the actual time that the person posted the tweet. And the time and date on Facebook is based on your computer or your device, not the local time of the user who posted the content. Now, this can be pretty significant. We've got an example of when there was the chemical weapons attack in Syria in 2013, and videos from the attack were circulating. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs actually questioned the authenticity of the video clips because they showed on YouTube as having been uploaded on August 20th, when actually the attack happened on the 21st, which is correct, but it looks different. So unless you have that literacy of the different social media platforms and their conventions, you might actually get it wrong. So I would just definitely, if you can, just take a snap of this slide because it'll be really useful to you. We'll just head back to Steffi for another useful tool called the Geo Search tool.
Yeah. So Geo Search tool is this. It's a great way to find a video uploaded in a certain area within a specific time period. While it's good to corroborate a date, it's also good to discover any new footage that's emerging that you might be interested in. So if we have here, oh God, where's my? Can you help me out? Can you just do Jakarta?
Okay, so Jakarta?
Yeah. Past 12 hours, past 24 hours?
Past 24 hours? Yep.
Yeah. So you can see this pulls up all the images. It's also got a map that if I can pull over to the right. See how it plots the points and how many images have been uploaded? This is a great tool to use when considering the date. Another great tool to use is Wolfram Alpha, which might as well just. So when considering the date, because it's one of the trickiest things to verify or corroborate, important things like the weather will help you at least tally a certain event. So let's say we saw a protest in Jakarta where the video shows a heavy thunderstorm last week. So we Google, or sorry, Wolfram Alpha. So while this is computing, because obviously when we look at the weather, if we look at the sites we normally look at for the daily weather forecast, it doesn't archive it. It gets rid of it. So Wolfram Alpha is a great way to find the archive data on weather events. And if it's... usually works, yeah.
I think the internet might just do the same.
Good call.
There we go.
Okay, so we see it on Saturday, April 15th. There was rain. It was rain and cloudy. You can get more information down here on the some more details of the actual weather conditions. So if you have a video where it's where there's rain coming down, obviously this will corroborate it. Let's say the results pulled in that it was sunny, clear skies. That would definitely at least be a red flag. This is not from the specific date.
Okay, we'll just get you to watch a quick video. This is really useful. We'll tell you how to find the upload time of an image in Instagram. Another very useful tool. Must stress that this does not show you when an image was taken, but when an image was actually uploaded. It's a very important distinction. Oops. So you don't have to remember that. You'll find that video in your folder as well, and also on the First Draft website. So you can go back and test that again later.
Okay, so we're going to look now at a video where we consider the date.
What we have feared has come. My arrest is an appalling sign of the return of a power-hungry, morally bankrupt, and abusive government.
Okay, so this is Philippine Senator Leila de Lima, who was arrested on February 24th. This video came out shortly after news of her arrest broke. For those who don't know, this senator was arrested over drug charges which were, most say, politically motivated because of her criticism of Duterte and her going after him. So we see this video. It was uploaded on the 24th. The date on the bottom right says February 23rd. We're considering the location. We see the Senate of the Philippines seal, which would suggest that that's exactly where it was taken. But if we look at when photos emerged of her actual arrest, you can see the outfit is different. So this appears to be what she wore on February 24th, the date of her arrest. But the Facebook video says it was marked February 23rd. However, when we look at further images, the video appears to have been taken on February 21st, not the 23rd. The scarf and the outfit that she's wearing, including the blazer, are exactly the same. She had given a statement on Duterte where she had labeled him a psychopath. So this would have appeared, if we were doing a story on this, that video was released in anticipation of her arrest, right? So if we were covering the story, we wouldn't say that she released this video the day she was arrested. Obviously not, because she was obviously getting arrested. This was done in anticipation of the arrest.
Okay, so we're coming towards the end, so bear with us. You need to now check where the content was captured. We'll show you this one example here. This is supposed to be, well, it is actually MH17, a very famous aeroplane. With this image, you can see this guy is tweeting about it. You've got a source for the image, you've got a date with a Twitter timestamp, but it's actually impossible to conclusively verify the location of this because you've got nothing to check it against. You've got blue sky. With location, the really important things that you're looking for are markers that will help you cross-check using a range of tools that Steffi will go through in a second. You're looking for street signs, shop signs, buildings, landmarks, bridges, the natural landscape, anything that can be corroborated through mapping tools and images. You need to be very wary of anything that talks about geolocation on social media. We already talked about how the very, very small amount of tweets are geolocated. that is that they say conclusively where they are. And even when they are, this tweet here, for example, was tweeted in Yemen, but the image is actually not from Yemen. So that can really complicate matters as well. You've really got to do all of those cross-checks, even if you think you're relatively confident about where it was actually taken. Especially during the early hours of breaking news stories, this can be a really big one to watch out for. So Steffi will talk to you now about how to geolocate tweets using Google Maps.
Okay. Google Maps is our go-to with confirming a location. Because of all the street view images, there's also the Google Earth feature. Google Earth specifically used to at least corroborate topography or buildings in the area. Yeah, let's try. There we go. That's good. That's good. Okay, so if we look down here, here's our little person that we just drag over. So let's say an incident happened, or there's a protest outside of the Australian embassy. This takes us directly to outside of the embassy, and obviously many locations. So if you have a video described as showing that specific area, in most instances you can drop down and take a look around. What's great is you can also, you should be able to move forward. Not in this instance. Let's say I go back. How do I go back to? No. Here? Okay. If I also wanted to go back, oh dear. Okay. Here we go. And also Google Earth is great. Keep in mind these tools because we're going to do an activity where you have to use Google Street View and Google Earth to verify a location for a news story. Can you put me back to where do you want to go? The PowerPoint? Yeah.
Sorry guys, having a slight malfunction there. Start that again. I'm just going to show you a quick thing you can do here to geolocate tweets using Google Maps. When you click on this little red tag, so I've looked up Australian Embassy, Jakarta, and you can see there's a picture of it here. This little red tag here, if you right-click on that tag, you'll see it says what's here. And if you click on this, you'll actually get the geo-coordinates for that exact location. Which can be extremely useful when you're doing searches. So then if you copy this information and you open up Twitter, in your search here, you paste that in, close the gap, and type in near colon, and we've given you instructions on how to do this, and then hit enter. It will show you content, and you can see here, I think this was yesterday. There was a big protest yesterday. So as you can see, was that at the Australian Embassy? Or very, very close, relatively close by?
The governor.
Hmm? Nearish? Okay, so if you want to narrow down and you go, okay, I want to get closer, then you type in within and 1 kilometre. And that will take you to content that was actually posted within that 1 kilometre radius. I can't remember what the exact default is for Twitter, but as you can see, where you're looking at a location, it casts a much wider net across a big area. So that's how you narrow it down.
Just to add to Flip with, let's say you have a location that doesn't have a red pin. If you just click, you see in the bottom, it'll pop down and you can copy and paste. But be sure to copy and paste the entire. You see there's a -6 point. If you get rid of that negative, you're going to go on the opposite end of the world. So be sure to copy and paste the entire lat longitude.
If you need any more help with these things, we are around. I know it's a lot to take in at short notice. Does everyone use Twitter Advanced Search as well? Anyone uses that? No? It's actually a really, really useful tool. So again, it's another, Twitter Advanced Search. Oh. Okay. Now, if you're not very good at doing advanced searches on Twitter, this is really, really helpful for you. Because what you can do is look up keywords. So let's say we're going to look up, we know that there's stuff going on in Caracas, so we're going to say protesta.
And Flip is using protesta because remember we want original language, keeping in mind that we want to think like the uploader.
And I'm going to look at Caracas because I know that's where the incidents are happening. Where is it? Caracas, Venezuela. And I want to say, I only want to see tweets from, say, April 27 to May the 1st. And then if I search, it will only show me that content. It's going to be a really useful way to narrow it down. And then if you want to narrow down even further, you can say, I'm only looking for photos, or I'm only looking for videos. And it can be quite useful to really narrow down your searches during breaking news events. You can also, if you see this, this search string up here, if you use TweetDeck, you can also copy that and drop that into TweetDeck and then save that as a search. So if you wanted that information to keep coming in, you can do that. Does everyone use TweetDeck? Yep. Some? Yep. So you can get quite sophisticated with your searches using these tools. They're freely available to you. Where are we now? Yep. So we'll skip past those. Okay.
Okay, so Instagram, when searching, as we mentioned before, that the convention of how it works is you can geotag yourself anywhere in the world. So you can see here to the right, Claire, who's based in New York, tagged that photo in her house as in Yemen. So it's something to bear in mind that anyone can say where they are at any time. There's also the feature of looking at, as you see just highlighted in red, Jakarta, Indonesia images. And that will pull in all of that information. The one thing to note with Instagram when looking at it is it's not like Twitter or Facebook where you can insert many keywords. At the moment, it's only hashtags. So if you're putting in Jakarta protest 2 words, only going to register Jakarta, or might register Jakarta protest. So just I at least recognize, pick 1 word, or at least label it as a hashtag, and that's what it'll pull in, just so you're not limiting yourself with the results.
What Steffi's done just quickly with this one here, you can see the red circle around the little place tag, which is the geolocation tag. If you find the place, you'll find content that's been posted in that particular area. So if you're looking for a specific location, then that's the way to do it.
So we're just going to show you real quick, I think Pico Dash. Okay, how do I? Great. I love Pico Dash. It's not only great for verifying content, but also discovery. Okay, so one of the great features of Pico Dash is, let's say we have our. This is going to pull in all photos and videos from the Jakarta area, or where we identified by the embassy. You can also move around this toggle to shift your radius, and you can see the points where images were uploaded. But the other great feature about this is, let's say you just want video, and you're sick of the selfies, you know that's not getting you anywhere. So if you hit the V, it'll pull in just video. So that'll cut the clutter of all the images that are uploaded. And then again, you can also search by the hashtag, which will pull in. And again, hit the V, and that'll just stream in all the videos, save you time from scrolling.
Does everyone know about EXIF data? Do you use this tool? Yep. If you, we'll give you, in your bookmarks, I think we'll skip past this activity because we're going to run out of time. But if you check out in your activities, if you use what's called the EXIF viewer, you can run an image through a little search engine, and you'll often find information about an image. This is particularly difficult if you're using images of Twitter and Facebook and things like that, because lots of the information is stripped out of what's uploaded. But if you have an original image, you can often find detailed information such as exactly where the photograph was taken, what kind of camera it was taken on, you know, where it was uploaded, everything. Like, it's quite amazing. And this is a good example. This was a story. The antivirus software king, John McAfee, was on the run from police because he was accused of murdering someone. And Vice went to interview him, and they posted this image with a bit of a bragging headline saying, "We are with John McAfee right now, suckers." And unfortunately for them, the image that they uploaded contained all of the metadata. And so what's circled there, you can't see it, but that is the geolocation, the coordinates that we just showed you from the Google Maps. So within a heartbeat, people were able to plug that into the mapping tools, and they not only found out where he was, but the swimming pool that he was standing right next to when he posted that image. So it can be a really, really useful source of information. Okay, we just got another example here from Steffi.
So this video, most of us in the region are familiar with. This was one of the first CCTV images that came out of King Jongnam at Malaysian Airport, KLIA Terminal 2. But how do you go about verifying these things? And it's going back to that principle of looking at street signs, or signs in this case, any significant markers. And one of the first things that pops up is, you can't see that, but it says KLIA2. So that would be one first sign to show that that's exactly where the incident happened. The other is, if we look to the right, we can see medical clinic. And then we see here that exact clinic is right there. So you verified, even though that's not your CCTV footage, obviously the Japanese producers had used that, and that's what made the rounds. But you can at least verify that the incident did take place at KLIA Terminal 2. Okay, so, or just to go, we can go back. Okay, so with Google Street View, we're going to talk about this again a bit. One thing it has is a feature of historical view. So if you're in a given location, it'll default to the most recent Street View image, but you can also go back in time from the previous shots that's been there. That's something to bear in mind, especially with more long form pieces where you're wanting to go back in time. We've also got the Google Earth. Does anyone use Google Earth? Google Earth Pro? Okay, great. Seems like everyone does. But is that right? The free key GEP? Did you want to say? Yes. Yeah.
There are two different, there's Google Earth Classic, which is what most people use. Then there's also Google Earth Pro. Now Google Earth Pro is good because you can you can download movies, you can download high-res images, and you can use them as long as you credit. Usually you have to pay for Google Earth Pro, but because you are journalists, we are giving you access to it for free. So everyone always cheers at this one. So take a picture of this slide because the key is GEP free. All caps. Google Earth Pro free.
Great.
Oh no, go back. People want to take a picture.
So that's obviously a way to use that video of using Google Images, Google Street View, everything we've talked about into verifying an incident. There's other maps that can be used. Wikimapia is one of them. Wikimapia is a collaborative, like Wikipedia. You can annotate or add significant descriptions of landmarks. I'm just going to show you where this is really useful. This is really useful in the Middle East, particularly Syria. Obviously, there's a lot of buildings being destroyed that are completely flattened. Things are constantly changing. So how do you keep in touch with the latest images? I'm just going to go here. If we use the reference of just last month, the U.S. Navy targeted the air base near Homs, right? So I want this exact geolocation before I go to Wikimapia. I'm copying it. Now, we can see here, the Wikimapia is a bit more interactive, and you can also go by category. So I want to see the military markings. So someone's saying here that this was army terrain, but it's since been disused. Here, this is a specific spot where there's a shooting range. Now this is not verified. Again, just like Wikipedia, anyone can upload this sort of information. But this is a really useful tool to get you leads on corroborating or verifying an incident where the landscape or the area is constantly changing. This is near home, so at least when we're verifying things with Syria, Wikimapia is one of the things we go to help verify the location. And next we have Yandex, which is it's a Russian. It's like a Russian Google Maps. So I would recommend Yandex if you're particularly looking at verifying images in Russia. There's also Baidu, which is used in Asia. There's also the Tencent maps as well. We don't have a screenshot of that, but Tencent maps they have their own street view images that can be accessed. Okay, we're gonna watch another video. Oops. Oh, there we go. Got it. Okay, does anyone know what this is? Who knows what this is? No? Has anyone heard of the dump collapse outside of Colombo in Sri Lanka? Killed 23 people, about 15 children. Tons and tons of man-made rubbish collapsed on them. So this was one of the first images to come out. It was posted on Facebook Live. Now, really pay attention with Facebook Live. It does not confirm that a person actually took it. Yeah, I remember I was seeing a opposition leader he was Facebook Live, but he was sharing Al Jazeera's footage, right? So that can be manipulated as well. So he posted on Facebook Live. So when we go back to how does the person describes what's happened, can we confirm it's them? You can't read it, but a friend comments, "Are you guys all right, bro?" And he says, "Still people are inside, but we are safe." So this is to suggest that he's there. He's not using a language that's distant. It's much more personal. Everyone have their laptops open, yeah? Because I would like you to try and verify the location of this video, and I'll give you a hint on how to figure it out. Okay, so we're here, but I want to go to Google Earth View because it's a big dump field, right? This here is my lead on exactly where the dump is. So if you guys are free, partner up if needed. There is a way to verify exactly where that video was taken that I showed earlier. There should be the link in that document. Does that make sense?
All right, get going.
We'll hop around and lurk over your shoulder and help you as we can. This is... So Mythotamula is what you're looking for?
Yeah, I've highlighted it.
Yeah. Okay, great. The way to go back to this? The way to go back to this? Okay. Is it? Or how do I go back to this? Okay, great.
Was that right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Which one do you want, that one?
Yeah, this next one. So here are some hints from the video. Oh, is it? Oh no, I want the PowerPoint. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so this is from the video. You've pulled up the dump area, but this is the video you're needing to verify. And I've highlighted the significant landmarks. We see a house, we see a power pole, we see a tractor to the left, and just a general dump pile.
How's everyone doing with this? Are you guys actually able to, are you finding it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so when I hit the link, it just takes me to your slides. Takes me there.
Okay, then hit.
Yeah, I can't see which one of these it is. It's not giving me these.
Oh, it's not there. Okay. Regardless of that, we can use. I'll leave that up there because that's all you need as long as you have the. You can put this into Google. Yeah, so I would use only Mythotamula. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Just to give another hint, I'm just going to go up here. So this is the dump. Sometimes when you're approaching from the Google Earth perspective, where do you drop in exactly? And there are some things to consider. So if we look at the video, there's a straight line into looking at the dump, right? So to me, that top Avesuela Road, that would not be where we would drop our little person, because there would be a lot of either buildings or trees that would block the view. So Avesuela Road is not where we can verify the location. So if you consider the streets that have a direct line at the dump, because that's the perspective the person had. I can go back. Okay, anyone able to verify it or come close? Okay, we're going to do it now. So when I'm looking, as I mentioned, go back down. Avisahuela is out. But this was one of the first places I would go to. And we can see here that that's the exact, just about near the exact place the man filmed the video. So these are the landmarks using Google Street View to verify the location. Okay, one more activity.
Нет черного хода.
Okay, if you open that Google folder again, there will be the YouTube link. And then what we're going to do is we're going to verify the location of this incident. It's in Ukraine. And if we consider everything that we've talked about before, look at the video description, use Google Translate to help you, see what sort of details they're giving you, any sort of clues, and how can you verify it. So we're going to go for that now. We're troubleshooting. Sorry about this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, but we're just going to have to go through, show you directly because the file or the video file is not there. But thank you for flagging that. So our apologies. So when we look at the description, so you can see I use Google Translate as an extension. And there are some keywords that really pop out. Odessa, the date we can obviously see in 2014. And then in green it says, today right sector Odessa, once again, Liktavufarov, Nakhravfara at Chera, blah, 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 Krylov, in time until. So do you remember when I was mentioning that when like a word just suddenly doesn't make sense? That's usually a hint that it might be the street or the location. So, and don't copy and paste that. Likvidubarav, okay, that's just Google Translate trying to figure out the word that it is. Use the original language to find that. And what's great about Google Translate when you use the actual website is you can hover over certain words and it will tell you which is what. It'll highlight it. So we found the cross street, and it's Krylova Street and Shonova Slavitska Street in Odessa. And where the star is exactly where those two streets meet. If we consider our video, these are some of the landmarks, or at least signs that highlight where we can help confirm. So the bottom right, that red brick, we see the street sign, the yield sign. There's windows in the background. There's also a lamppost. And we can see here on this Google Street View image, the red brick. That yield sign is right there once we move back. The lamppost. The trees tally exactly with everything. So that would be a way of how we use Google Translate, how we use Google Street View. Pay attention to the details, and definitely don't be intimidated by a language when you see a video. Trust these tools like Google Translate or Bing, where you can get some leads and then actually verify the location without knowing a single word.
Okay, we're almost there, everybody. Just the last thing you have to check, as always, is the motivation. I'm sorry you can't read this slide again, but people have lots of different reasons for sharing, so just make sure you always do that last check. We just do a quick challenge. We've got about 5 minutes to just do this one quickly. This is, you can test your skills if you want with a couple of online quizzes with First Draft, and just to test a couple of your skills now. Okay. Huh? Yeah. Okay. So you ready? This is going to put all of your newfound skills into action. Okay, so each photograph is going to give you a bunch of visual clues, like Steffi was suggesting. You've got 4 chances to get this right, and you can ask for clues along the way if you need it. So we'll kick off with this first example. Okay, so we need to know, in which country was this image taken? Maybe, Steffi, you want to help point out some of the clues in the picture? It's actually, if so you can see the details of the image. I do suggest you bring this up. It's in your list of activities. You will find this link. Just click on that and have a look on your own device, and you might see a few more details. It's a bit hard because the screen is very fuzzy. Can anyone see anything in the image that might give you a bit of a clue? What have we got? Okay, we've got a newspaper, L'Humanité. Okay, so you reckon this might be France? France? Yep. See if that's right. Correct. Well done. That's exactly the kind of stuff you're looking out for. So you can see, I know it's a bit hard to see on the big screen, but that's the kind of clue that you're looking out for when you're trying to verify these images. Okay. Where do you think this one might be taken? What do you think your big clue is in this picture here? Can anyone see anything that might give you a bit of a hint? There's a lot of Chinatowns around the world, though. There's a Chinatown in every city. So what is the distinguishing... That's close. Okay. But what is the distinguishing factor in this image? What can you see that stands out in this image that's unusual? Anyone? Yeah, the license plate. That's a really good thing to look out for, and that can be really helpful when you're trying to verify. There is something that might give you a big clue, though. It's a sign that you might want to look at. Is there any sign that kind of stands out as not like the others? Maybe over in the left-hand side of the image? Yes. Okay. What does that tell you? There's a law office sign there, and it's got someone's name on it. David something something. Yeah. So maybe, can anyone Google law and David, and where does it come up? New York. Okay. When you Google that, you'll come up with his name. about this one? Can you bring this one up on your computers and have a look as well? It's probably a bit easier if you have a look on your computer. Huh? Oh, you know already? Oh, okay. Okay, can you explain why you picked that out?
You look at the signs here, and you see at the bottom there's a word ouvert, which to me suggests French. That's a word. It's a French word for open. And you could probably find that out if you translate it. Just use Google Translate. You can see that ouvert means well. So I take that as an initial clue. And then I just looked at some of the business signs there. And when you look up the one, there's Perrier at the bottom there, but just to the right of it is, I thought there could be a Perrier. Perrier is a very common name. It's a business. It's a brand name. So I thought that might be too common. So I looked at Flamand Sculpteur next to it, just above ouvert, and I found a business in a Canadian city called Quebec, and in Canada they speak French. So my guess is that this would be in the city of Quebec in Canada.
Okay, let's try that. Well done. Congratulations. Okay, we've got one last image here now. Where do you think this one is taken? What do you think your big clues are in this image here? Which one? Has anyone got any ideas? Again, I know it's very hard to see. I'm sorry about the fuzzy screen. There's a few things you might want to look at in this image. These ladies, they're carrying a shopping bag, and that's clearly embossed with the name of a shopping mall. So I would definitely go and check that image out. The other clue, and maybe someone can, because I can't actually remember where this one is. Can anyone solve this one for me? There's also the bus. If you really wanted to get quite detailed about it, yep, you can see the route number on the bus. Now, that says, what is it, Q207. That might be a relatively unusual bus route number, so you might be able to narrow down your search that way. Can anyone have a look at the original image and tell me where that is taken? Quebec? You think Quebec again? Steffi, I think you know this one.
It's also useful to pay attention to the language. So, exclusive im. I can recognize it because I speak the language. German, yeah?
What do you reckon? Berlin?
I would say Berlin.
Berlin? Let's give it a go.
Also, because Lafayette is the high-end store in
Correct.
Berlin.
There we go, Lafayette in Berlin. So you can see, if you just start to look at some of those details in the images, that will really, really help you. Okay, we are almost at the end of our mammoth presentation. Just quickly, there's a lot of newsroom tools out there that will help improve your life. A lot of these are free, and some of them do cost money, and some of them cost more money if you're a massive newsroom, and sometimes less if you're a smaller newsroom. But I would take a photo of this and go and check out each and every one of these tools. They all do a whole range of different things. CrowdTangle was recently bought by Facebook, and now it's free. It used to cost money for newsrooms. It's a fantastic way to track information that's starting to trend on social media, and it's a good way to keep track of your competitors and see what content is performing well for them. Google Trends, you've heard about, is a really fantastic tool to see what people are searching for. TweetDeck is indispensable if you are trying to track breaking news situations and create filtered lists. Check is that tool that will help you organize your newsroom around social verification. Storyful, you've already heard about. And then some of these tools here, they cost a bit of money. They all do different things. Data Miner is fantastic for sending you signals. If some news is breaking on Twitter, then it will send you an alert and tell you that something is happening in your region. Banjo is another tool that you can get a free trial. Will track a whole range of social networks and do the same thing. So do check those out. Do have a look at Storyful. Do you do trial logins?
We do trial runs. If you're interested in a subscription to Storyful, come contact me. You can barely see here that what we have is a newswire, and it's essentially all user-generated content that we verify before we post. or at least seek to verify. So in each story, we go through the date and give all the information, the location, all the information in the source, and all the available details, and contextualize the story or the image to the story.
You've got your verification guide, which is the handout on your desk there, but do check out firstdraftnews.com. It is an amazing free resource and it's there to help you. We've also got another Chrome plugin that you can use, an extension that will remind you about the verification checks you should be doing. Google also has, as you heard, a fantastic training website with lots of free resources for journalists, and I do suggest you get in there if you want to practice your skills with Google Earth and all of the other stuff that we showed you. And that's it from us. Do follow us on Twitter. We're very receptive. If you send me a message, I will always respond and I will help out in any way that I can. And you can send me a private message directly. You don't have to tweet me publicly if you don't want to. That's it from us. Thank you very much. I know it's been a long afternoon.
Run out. We don't know whether we can make this presentation available, but we are going to find out if we can, given that it was blurry. So on the Google Doc, there will be a link, not yet, because I have to create it, to a form so that you can actually sign up. If we can make the presentation available, then if you sign up using that link on the Google form, then we will make it available to you. Okay? Thank you.
That you have free access to Google Earth Pro.
Yes.